my beautiful babes and babettes. I'm your resident active advocate, feeling very snappy this morning. And it's almost afternoon, so I should probably get this out there now. Alright, so first of all, spoiler warning. Secondly, content warning, because this book that we are about to discuss does contain themes of child drug addiction as well as child abandonment. So, this book is Willow and Twig by Jean Little. I really like Jean Little. And one of the narrative or story forms that Jean Little excels at is called the Bildungsroman. For any of y'all who aren't the classic English nerd like me, this is the fancy schmancy German word for the coming of age story. So you see this theme in Anna. You see this theme in, the one about Sal with cerebral palsy. Wow, my mind is blanking. Okay, we've already discussed that book, though. Watch, it'll come to me at 3 a.m. But, okay, so this book is also, to some degree, a Bildungsroman. And the plot of this book is that Willow and Twig are sister and brother, and Willow is 10 years old, and she's ostensibly Twig's guardian because they have been basically abandoned by their mother, who had a very nasty lover who had beaten Twig to the point of deafening him in one of his ears. So not only is Twig hard of hearing, but Twig was also born addicted to his mother's drug of choice. He was also born with ADHD. So the three of these disabilities coming together creates a rather difficult package for Willow to deal with, but Willow adores Twig. She would never abandon him. She has a very maternal instinct, and she's wise beyond her years because of her past and because of the abandonment she has experienced by her mother and the just terrible treatment that she had experienced by her stepfather. But when Willow and Twig are on the street one day, just kind of wandering, looking for a place to stay, because yet again, they have no more place to stay because their mother has like up and jumped ship. So they're wandering around looking for a place to stay, and they're picked up by the police. Now, Willow has been taught through her mother's experience and through her mother's, just distrust of the police, to herself not trust the police. They are also people of color. I do believe that they are indigenous, at least on the mother's side. So that Willow believes that will give them a disadvantage before the law. That and the fact that they're both children. So if they're being picked up by a larger, more authoritative adults, Willow is feeling very, just not secure in this place. And they're given food by the officer, they have conversations, and gradually Willow lets people know about her history and her brother's history. And it is discovered that Willow and Twig have a grandmother who is willing to take custody of them. Now, throughout the beginning of this book, Willow herself, the reason why she's largely able to take care of herself and of Twig, she has a very active imagination and a very active conscience and a very active sense of danger versus not danger. What is it that's going to make me secure? What is it that is going to make me insecure and put me in danger? Her internal voice of reason is this character whom she calls Red Mouse. She cannot for the life of her remember where she first saw this character or if she invented this character for herself. But when she arrives at her grandmother's house, she meets the man whose voice matches the voice of Red Mouse in her head. She even says that, if she closed her eyes, she would believe that this was the internal voice who had been instructing her all this time through her troubles and her trials. And so this man is actually, his name is Uncle Humphrey, or just Uncle Hum if you don't have time. But he is an author of children's stories, and he invented the character of Red Mouse. Uncle Hum is also legally blind, and he has pet dogs, but he also has a guide dog to help him get around the house. And this is where Willow and Twig first learn to trust animals and also first learn to trust other human beings. Up until this point, they have not been able to do that because they have had very insecure and anxious forms of attachment style going on with any authority figure in their life, especially in regard to the stepfather because he had been so brutally abusive. So that is the first good bit of Willow and Twig, but then the second good bit of that is them healing from their past trauma in this very pastoral setting that Jean Little creates for them and had based on her own childhood home, or at least a place in the country with which she had been familiar as a child herself. So while this is a coming of age story, it is also a narrative about the capability to overcome abuse and to overcome a horrific and terrible past when one is put in a supportive, safe, loving environment. People do have the capability of coming back from trauma. It's not always going to be black and white, hard and easy. It's like, this is where my life is bad, and here is where my life is going to be good, and I am automatically, quote, healed. This is not a miracle cure narrative, thankfully. So when it comes to them living in this new place and learning how to trust other people and put their safety in the hands of other people, the fact that they are eventually able to do this speaks very well to Willow's maturity, especially because Twig has a lessened capacity to understand, but he definitely understands when he's in pain, when he's in danger, when he's sad, and it's this sympathetic emotional relationship that has kept the two siblings together, that and Willow's own maternal protective instinct. But she is gradually able to let go of this constant need to be right there for Twig right now, and always have to protect him and always have to look after him. In the new environment with her grandmother and with Uncle Hum, she's able to actually live as a child would live. And that is the general point of this story, is that even though you have undergone trauma, there is the capability for healing if you have the right environment. And it is also very much about disability and fitting in, because they had not been able to fit in any environment they had been in before, especially given the fact that Twig had a tendency to basically just speak his mind, and he had no filter. And he also had frequent, tantrums because he was emotionally and mentally stunted by his addiction to his mother's drug of choice when she was pregnant with him. Willow did not undergo a similar oh gosh, she didn't undergo a similar process in the womb, thankfully. So on on her part, the story is both easier and harder because Twig was the one born addicted to this drug, and he's the one who has to deal with the side effects of everything that goes on, and especially since people around him who had not been supportive and who had in fact been abusive and unable to handle him when he was at his worst, they had always treated him very, very poorly. Willow in that regard got off much easier than Twig did. So you can definitely see trauma on both parts, but it's very difficult to argue which child has it worse or better. I would strongly recommend that you read this book for yourself. And rather than making that decision, though, analyze as you go through whether you believe this to be a quote realistic plot line, because while they do come through trauma and while it does take them a while to get better, is it realistic that two kids who had ostensibly lived on their own, raised themselves, and at some points lived on the streets, is it realistic, do you believe? And I'm going to make you do some homework here. Do you really think it is realistic for them to be able to look up to and trust adult authority figures after they had been abandoned and abused so very often by adults in their life? So if you would like, let me know down in the comments what you think. But please read the book. As I say, read, 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 because it will make you smarter, it will make you more empathetic, and you will, especially under the guidance of Jean Little, because she's a very good author, you will be able to expand your horizons and get to know about different communities that may not be your own. All right, so that is Willow and Twig. I know what book I want to talk about tomorrow, but I need to find a summary and I can't remember who wrote it because I haven't read it in a while. So that'll be fun. And I will see y'all tomorrow to talk about this new book. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for your lovely time, attention, and participation. All right. Bye.